Okay, Dale, it's time to get going. Well, let's get started. All right, so go ahead and remove your old gasket here. Okay, so now we can start by disassembling a few pieces that are easiest to get to while we're in the case. Wow, it's just lovely. Just really nice. All right, let's go ahead and remove the movement. Well, let's go ahead and take the balance out while we're here. Nice. Very nice. Okay. Now, take your stem. We're going to rebuild your crown. So that's going to get redone. Perfect. Okay, let's get it out. Oops. Wow. Amazing. So you have over time there's migration of the lubrication around the movement, and sometimes it will accumulate here on the hands, but it's nothing really of any consequence. It's basically just a little bit of oil or just grease that's made its way up here, and we can clean that off. That's easy. All right, let's go ahead and take off your dial and hands. part done. Let's go ahead, take off your dial. Excuse me. Okay. 1, 8. 1, 3. Interesting. I've not seen that large of a gap, but you know, there's no reason in my mind to ever think that anything's been replaced, so you know, that's not unreasonable. It's about 5 months, 4 or 5 months. Yeah, I'm convinced. This is an all original watch. Okay, so now that's taken care of, let's go ahead and get started with the movement disassembly, which for these is a fairly short process. We'll start on the train side. Excuse me. All right. So here we go. Let's go ahead and take it down. Take off your ratchet wheel. Turn your click. Train bridge. Pallet fork bridge. Let's take that off. That way everybody comes at once. There we go. Okay, we'll be real gentle, of course, with everything. It's always good to sort of inspect your parts as you remove them. It's interesting that sticks there. All right, pallet fork looks nice, as expected. Alright, so we're going to make that a jewel. That's a bushing now. That will help with many, many things. Longevity and overall function. There's your fourth wheel. Third wheel. Your hack. Escape wheel. Well, some tired old lubrication in there. We're going to make that a jewel as well. So we'll revisit that. That was your barrel, mainspring barrel. Your mainspring, which powers your watch, lives in there. And here's your center wheel cock. That comes off. There's your center wheel. A little bit of haze inside of here, but that's again from the migration of materials that are used as lubricants. Sort of coat things. Okay, well, let's move on to the calendar side. For small tapered head screws that hold this plate, which in turn holds your date ring. Beautiful. Look at that. Metal intermediary wheel. Early watches get metal parts, or at least have metal parts. Okay, so there goes your hour wheel. Metal intermediary wheel. Okay, here are your keyless works and other components associated with the calendar change and the setting of the watch. Some small plates and screws, nothing of any real, nothing to be fearful of, I should say. Calendar side die shock. Still have some lubrication in here. Ooh, that's stiff. It definitely needs to come out. Okay, we'll get that cleaned up. Alright, now for your calendar works. I'm sorry, your keyless works. We're always careful with springs. Springs like to fly. There's your quick date mechanism. Ooh. There we go. Old lubrication. Makes things sticky. Yep. There we go. There's your winding pinion. Setting pinion, I should say. There's no winding other than automatic winding. Let's take off your cannon pinion. There we go. And there's your center wheel. And that's it. That's your movement torn down. Now we're gonna jewel this and take care of some details. And we'll be back. Okay, Dale. Well, we have reached a point where your parts have been cleaned. They're ready to go. I also sort of take that time while things are in the cleaner to get the case sort of straightened out, get all of the components that are part of the case. Your crown has been rebuilt. It has a brand new seal in it now. So when we go to put everything back together, we'll be set. But this is sort of the components of a plus your fantastic outer ring. These are the components that make up the case of a 6105. You know, the parts you see on the outside of the watch. You have you don't have a chapter ring that you need to align, so you can actually put the case essentially all together prior to full assembly, because your chapter ring is integrated into your dial. And so all this ring is essentially a spacer and a keeper that holds your L-shaped gasket in place, which then of course holds your crystal and keeps everything tight. This is your inner bezel. This goes on top after these three components are in the case. This snaps on. It's a compression fit with a set of lips that overlap with the inside edge of your case, just like this one does, but on this ring instead of the outer ring. So now we can just slip these parts together one at a time. This is your original gasket, and for these, because it's made of Viton, Seiko recommends always to just use the original gasket, because that ensures proper fit. So now we have the gasket. What I like to do is lightly clean your this is your original Type 2 style. Don't really have to worry about the outside yet, but the inside should be nice and clean and free of dust and debris. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to press this in place very evenly and make sure that there's no nothing pinched or bunched in any particular way around the outer edge. And we're good, so that's nice and straight. Now this ring has a thumbnail notch that goes to the top of the watch. That's where the factory put it, and that's where I like to put it as well. So we'll align that so that the next person who may have to replace something gets the factory position. We just set that in place, and now we go to the press. So I'll be back. And that should press straight away. That's it. Pressed in place. All right, so now that is your case fully assembled to the point where we can then pop this on once we put a new bezel gasket. So there's a gasket that runs inside of this that helps with sealing and also with the stiffness of the rotation. Your click ball is still captured, so that's always good to see. That's still in place. So once we get to the last point, we'll go ahead and just put this on. I usually wait till the end and snap that in. But that is your case fully assembled and waiting for the movement. And we'll put that aside and come back. All right, Dale, it's time to get started on reconstruction here. I wanted to point out, of course, that we've added some components. Here's your lower mainspring arbor port jewel. This is the component that ameliorates any damage or long-term effects of the base metal that is the brass in the main plate. Is very soft compared to the arbor, which is part of your barrel. So this part right here fits into that hole, and over time, lateral motion or just the use of the watch, the winding over and over again of use will eventually egg this hole out, and it's just a Achilles heel of these movements. To partner with that, there's an upper mainspring arbor port bushing, and that was now replaced with a jewel. So now you have two new jewels in your watch, making it effectively the way that Seiko should have made these in the beginning. So now you're nice and ready to go for that process to be fully realized. Finally, the watch in its fully realized state, the way it should have been. All right. So let's go ahead and begin with our first step, which is always to lubricate components. So we use a couple oilers here. So we're going to drop your first part, which is the center wheel. Ensuring there's nothing here to foul the motion. Oops. That goes right there. And it gets a tiny drop of oil right on top. Like so. One screw. Okay. Now, the one thing we definitely don't want to forget as we're getting started is your hacking lever. That must sit right here and has to precede all the other wheels. And then we put in your barrel and lubricate that lovely new jewel. That looks nice. And we're going to lubricate the top of the barrel arbor for its new jewel. All right, now what we're going to do is place the rest of your wheels in, taking some time to inspect them before they go in place. Make sure that there's no fuzz or outside stuff. Okay, third wheel looks good, so it will go in. And now for your escape wheel. Do its inspection. So what I'm doing here is I'm checking all of the angles that I can see with a loop to see if there's anything sitting on the wheel that should not be there. And sometimes, you know, fuzz or just dust or air pollution that we take for granted that, you know, when you dust a surface, you end up removing some of that, but also putting it into the air. And it can, in just very short order, settle onto these surfaces. And that leaves you in a very regrettable position when you want to make a watch movement move, because things on the scale of, you know, a few hundred microns in, you know, dust particles, which is what they are, they can interrupt the movement of the watch. And that's bad. You don't want that. If they get into the teeth of the gears of these wheels, that can be particularly bad. Okay, so there's your fourth wheel. It gets a tiny drop of lubrication, and then it actually threads down through the center wheel. All right, so now we're ready to put your bridge. So this is your bridge for the train. All right, so we've got your hacking lever. We've got everything in place. And we gently bring the bridge down, ensuring that everything is not being smashed, but is gently placed where it needs to be. Just kind of jiggle your components here. You gotta often align your wheels to their pivots, just like that, and with that, back together. It's so nice to see it sort of drift as you release it. Okay. Now, 3 screws, and I take this process very slowly. So I put in 1 screw until it just touches the surface. I check the motion of the train, make sure it's nice and free. I grab another screw and put it in place just until it touches. We don't want any pivots to be bound. And at this point, we are good to go. 3rd screw goes in, and now we can tighten everybody down. Their final tightness. Now we can lubricate. So we lubricate the pivots. Right. Center wheel. And your escape wheel. Alright, so now what I like to do is I like to flip the movement and take care of some things we need to have on the calendar side in place. So one of those things is your die shock setting. So this has been pre-lubricated and is ready to go. And now we put in its little spring keeper. There's a name for that, but I forget what it is. Each different variety of these sort of things have their own associated names, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head. I have to look them up. Memorization is not my favorite thing, which is why I'm not a chemist or a biologist. Okay. So there's that. That's in place. And now we take the time to lubricate these two jewels. Third wheel and escape wheel. And we also lubricate your cannon pinion. Your center wheel, where the cannon pinion goes, I should say. We'll go ahead and put that right in place. There it is. There's your cannon pinion. Alright, so now we can flip back to this side. Alright, now let's go ahead and put your click in place. Goodness, come on. Not supposed to do that. Go back. Okay, that's nice. And now your ratchet wheel. And its large-headed screw. Okay. Once we're tight, touch, give it a little tighten. Check out the running of your train. It's nice and quiet. Everything looks beautiful. Boy, that's nice. Okay, good deal. Well, now we switch to the lubrication of your other parts. I'll be right back. All right. Well, we've got your pallet fork lubricated. So now what we're going to do is put in the bridge that holds it in place. Okay, a little power in main spring. Okay, there's the bridle. Let's check out your balance and hairspring assembly here. Take a very close look. For me, it's easier to see contaminants. If I look off to the side, I can kind of see them refract the light a little bit better than if I'm looking dead on from above. Just makes my life a little easier. Alright, we have reached the point now where it's time to stop talking and start checking how we did. So let's drop your balance in. Look at that. Wants to run already. No jewel and no screw, and it's ready to go. Okay, first thing is to get it nice and flat. That's what the screw does. Second thing is to put the die shock jewel in place and get it nice and happy in its position. It's wobbling like crazy, and then you put this in and it trues it right up. Okay, let's go ahead and put the retaining spring in place. Okay, then we have to tuck this into its little groove. It's really just about each three, it's a 3-part set of tangs that then go into a little notch, and then you rotate it and tuck it under the groove. And there you go. That's a die shock in place. Well, that's it for now. Now we check. Now we see how we did. Take a close look at your... Oh yeah, that looks good. Nice and flat. I wouldn't expect it to be any different than really good. Such a clean watch. Movement reflects that as well. Let's see how we did. Let's see how we did. All right. Well, looking all right. So far, so good. Not throw everything onto the bench here. This is one of those movements that is just vigorous. It just wants to do well. Look at that. Hardly any beat error. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to try and tune out some of that gain and rate first before I touch anything else. I'm going to get it close. Okay. Working small steps, Ellie. Small steps. Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. It's basically new old stock here. We are doing good. Ambitious movements that just wants to run hard, wants to be good. Look at that. Wow. So nice. So nice. Look at that. Ha. Well, yeah. I'm convinced this is a freaking amazing movement. I'm just going to leave it there for a little while. See how we do. I mean, it's going to get better. It's amazing. This is, you know, kind of movement you want to see. Just blasting along. Maybe take a tiny little bump. Okay, I went too far. That's all right. You can always adjust. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Mid 230s have been running for under 2 minutes. Jeez. All right. Well, Dale, you start off with an amazing watch, you end up with an amazing watch. It's just, this makes a watchmaker's day. When you see this sort of performance, you really know that you're starting with something that's, you know, just the best. All right, well, I'm gonna just, for a matter of sort of consistency, I'm gonna let this run in, and we'll we'll start putting together the keyless works and the calendar side, and then we can finish up. But on camera here, almost to 240, that is where it's at. Pretty nice. I'm really happy. All right, we'll be back. All right. All right, Dale. Well, your movement has had some time to run in, and run in it has. It is probably one of the best running 6105 movements I've ever worked on, and it's exciting to actually have it, have it here on the bench. It's fun to see one of these in their sort of original states, where they are just doing what they were made to do, and that is run like crazy. It's really great. So I'm super excited. So now what we get to do is complete the calendar side so that we can get the dial in hands put on the movement and get it back in the case. So this is the sort of easy part. If there is an easy part to this process, this is essentially just adding components, and that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Start with a few pieces here that we need. So there's your minute wheel. Correct. Okay, now we can focus on your cannon pinion. Okay, so now we can put in your yoke. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put your stem in. Goes right there. All right, now the end of your yoke needs a little bit of grease. Okay. Okay. Now for your shepherd spring. Okay, so now what we have to do is do that. Good. Good, good, good. Okay. There we go. Good. Hacking lever works. There's your day change. And now we gotta make sure this is all held down before we, there we go. Oh, come on. Now you need your little plate. There we go. All right. Perfect. Okay. Now we me put your corrector. There we go. And it gets a little bit of lubrication right on the end. Help with advancing the date. Right. Oh, now, come on. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, now the last screw here. And we can install dial and hands after we check all the functions. Setting. Good. All right. All right, that looks good to me. Okay. Next up, dial and hands. We'll be back. All right, well, we are at the end. Let's get to putting everything back together. All right, so next step is to case the watch, or case the movement. So, a little bit of light cleaning here. Okay. Now we get your movement retaining ring. Your beautifully rebuilt crown goes in. There we go. Okay. Now for your movement retainer. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and put your final pieces in, your winding components. Okay. Do a little last clean up here, all the pieces. Make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be in the movement. The only thing we want in there is a little bit of lubrication. And now for your final piece. Rotating weight. There we go. Okay. And there we go. Well, we have, in my opinion, completed one of the most stunning, both inside and out, 6105s I have seen ever. I like to assure every customer and everyone who gets a watch done that theirs is really great. But in terms of the greatest of the greats, I think this one qualifies in my book. It is amazing. So your bezel back on. Clicks nicely. Nice and smooth action. Let's go through all the functions of your watch. So everything is working just as it should. You have new seals on all sealing surfaces except for under your crystal, because that one is the original, which is what Seiko recommends you use. Here we go, clicking over midnight. Yeah, let's check the quick date. That sets perfectly. Well, Dale, let's go over the things that we are sending back. So here's your little pouch. Whoop. You've got your bushing that we placed in your. We got your bushing that we've replaced with a jewel. Here's your extremely stiff seal for your crown. Oops. Your bezel seal and your case back seal. Just tried to escape. Now these are more pliable than most. Most are a piece of plastic, but they are stiff and certainly need to be replaced after 50 years. So that is coming back to you along with your watch. So I didn't really have to do much of anything. I cleaned the watch. I didn't touch this with anything other than a cloth. Had to replace the seals. Full service of the movement with 2 new jewels. Cleaned a little bit of just basically some stuff that had migrated to the hands from the movement. A little bit of grease. Cleaned those off. But the pip on this, oh my gosh, this stoplight. I have never seen one so perfectly red. It's gorgeous. Everything is really, really ready to go. So I couldn't be happier. The numbers on your watch are phenomenally good. Let's see if we can take a last look before we move on. All right, Dale, well, here are your final numbers for your watch. I honestly could not be happier. This is exactly how you want one of these to run, and yours is just so impressive. 250. This is not a full wind. We are just sitting here after this sitting overnight, literally. It's now at 250.
Just phenomenal. All right, well, here we are. We're at the end.